Now, unlike My America and the Milkmakers, this book is not a poetry book, and it's not a nonfiction book either. This is an actual storybook. So, just briefly, I'm going to tell you how the story goes. I won't go into every detail here. The story is about a woman named Aunt Lena, and the story is told in first person through this girl named Sophie. She's talking about how her Aunt Lena loves Broadway musicals and movie stars, and every Wednesday, Aunt Lena would go see a matinee show on Broadway. So obviously they live in New York, and every time Aunt Lena came home, she would dance around the kitchen and act out some of the things that she's seen. Aunt Lena loves to sing and dance, and she taught Sophie how to do a bunch of different dances. But then one day, Aunt Lena fell and sprained her ankle, and she wasn't able to go to Broadway one week, and she was very sad about that. So then Sophie came up with an idea to try to cheer up Aunt Lena by putting on a show for her. And she tried to ask different members of her family to help her out and take part in this show, but none of them were interested at first. So then Sophie went to her grandma and talked to her about her idea, and she was playing this really big elaborate show in the house where they get to wear costumes and play music and sing songs from Aunt Lena's favorite shows. And after a really good laugh, Grandma agrees to help her. So half an hour later, Sophie comes out wearing really fancy outfit, and she starts singing, "Take me out to the ball game, take me out to the crowd." I don't know if she actually sang that in the book or not. I wish I had the book with me so I can compare it. It may or may not be in the book because then she just kind of continues singing it in the background as the story continues. And after Sophie sings for a while, her two uncles finally join in and agree to take part in her show. So I don't know if Sophie lives with her aunt and uncles and her grandma instead of her parents. The story never mentions Sophie's parents, so maybe she does live with them, I don't know. And so they spend the next few days rehearsing their show together in the kitchen. And then that Wednesday, the day that Aunt Lena couldn't go to Broadway, and then Aunt Lena wakes up and says, "Hey, what's going on in here?" Because apparently they had decorated Aunt Lena's bedroom while she was asleep, and there was a big curtain in there. And after she wakes up, they open the curtain and start singing and dancing. One of the uncles even had a bugle. And Sophie starts saying, "Give my regards to Broadway, remember me to Herald Square." I didn't hear the line that came after that because they were continuing the story as she was singing. It's "Give my regards to Broadway, remember me to Herald Square, tell all the gang at 42nd Street that I will soon be there." The last part where she says "be there," we actually do hear right after the narrator stops reading that part. And this is a song by George M. Cohan. And it's from the movie Yankee Doodle Dandy. Now, there was a movie called Take Me Out to the Ball Game that came out in 1949, but the song was originally a 1908 waltz song by Jack Norworth and Albert von Tilzer. And once again, I don't know if any of these songs were actually in the book or not, or if Reading Rainbow decided to add them in just for fun to give us the feel of Sophie and her family singing together. And after they sing and dance a beautiful performance, Aunt Lena chuckles and laughs and says, "Encore! Encore! Ooh!" The way she says encore, when I was little, I thought she said, "I'm cold" or something. But she's very happy because the show made her laugh and it was helping her feel better. So that was great. Really great story, but it ain't over yet. At the end of the story, eventually after Aunt Lena's ankle had healed, she took Sophie with her to Broadway and they went to see a show together. This story does a magnificent job describing, everything that she sees, hears, and feels when these things happen. If you can by any chance find a copy of this book, I highly recommend you read it. It's a really good story. And as the lights dim and the show begins, Aunt Lena whispers to Sophie, "Now here is where the magic begins." Now remember that'll be important later. And then we see the words, "the end," and there's LeVar in the kitchen again, looking at the book and closing it because he just finished reading it. That was a nice little touch that they added during some of the later episodes, because back in the 80s and early 90s, at the end of the story, they just cut back to whatever LeVar was doing out on his adventures. But this is one of the episodes where we actually see LeVar closing the book after the story. That's really cool. Then LeVar recaps the story and explains how Sophie was happy to find the joy of singing and dancing inside her, and even though it took a little convincing, she got her whole family to join in too. And then he says that sometimes somebody has to give you a little push to help you take a chance that you might not have taken on your own.